Hi class, Jolene here. Today we're going to learn how to use the Type on a Path and the Area Type tools to do these kind of interesting things you can do with type. Kind of take your type to a new level. So I'm going to recreate each one of these elements and show you how it's done. First of all, I'm going to make sure that you're just using layer 3. So I'm going to lock these other layers. And we'll start with the Type on a Path tool, which is, well, now I can't click on it because I've locked it. There it is. You can see that it's been typed on this path. So I'm going to go over here, and the way I'm going to create that path is using the pen tool. So I'm just going to click and drag about like that, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that looks really weird, and that's because I've got the fill on instead of the stroke. So if I swap it, you can see that now I just have a stroke. Now I'm going to switch over to the Type on a Path tool, which is right here under the Type tool, and I'll click over here on the left side, and you can see that it's going to automatically add type, the lorem ipsum type. I'm going to change that to just a regular font like Arial so it's easier to see. And then I'm going to type over it to type what I want in there so you can see what that looks like. Something like, there was once a graphic designer who could not draw a straight line. Did any of you notice that I've got a typo in there? That's no problem because this type acts like just any other type where I can go in here and fix that typo. Select it and fix it. You can see that I can make this font smaller. I can make it larger. You already saw how I could change the type to a different font. Can do anything that you would do with any other font. Change the color of it like that. So the other cool thing about it is you can change where the type appears along the line by dragging this line. There's one in the middle, one on the right and left side. You can see here that I've run out of room for what I had because I made the font bigger than. So I'm going to switch both of them to 13 points so that it all fits. And you can also change how it behaves on that line, how it's situated. Right now, using the paragraph panel, it's a line left. If I do align center, then it's going to center it along that path. I can still move it, but you can see, and it's going to stay centered. I can also change how the path looks by switching to the white direct select tool, clicking on an anchor, and moving the path around. You can also move the handles to change how that path behaves. So that's one way to do Type on a Path. Another way is to create a shape, a circle, rectangle, pretty much any kind of shape, and then type on that. So let's try that over here. Again, I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 3. I'm going to make a circle, and then I'm going to get the Type on a Path tool, and I'm going to click. Notice what happened when I clicked. I had a circle filled with red, and it automatically took that away. And if I click off of this, you'll see that there is no indication of a circle being there anymore. That is the nature of Type on a Path. Keep that in the back of your mind for when we come over and do this, because you might say, well, I want to have color in that inside that circle, and it's gone away. I'm going to show you the workaround for that. So going back to this one and recreating what I had over here, Patty's Plants, I'll click on this type again. I just clicked the letter T to select the type tool. And now I'll type in, I'm going to make this all uppercase, Patty's Plants. And look where it is. That's not a good spot for it at all. So once I click on the black arrow, here's my levers, if you will, that I can pull this around and get it where I want it to be. I can double click here, make this larger, change the font. I think I had a font called like that. Again, change the color, maybe to a dark green, something like that. So now I have a type on a path, on a circle. Again, you can't really see it, and in this case, I don't want you to be able to see it. Then I can put something in the middle of it. So you can see here, I've just got some regular type that I created. That's not a good way to do it. I'm going to do it over here in this same layer. And so I'll just type St. Paul, Minnesota. And again, you can see I have this centered. That's what makes that look kind of nice there. And then I'm just going to kind of put that up inside that. And I want to make sure it's perfectly centered, so I'm going to use my guides. I'm going to use the original type on a path where I can see those points there. There's center. Oh, you can't see the guides because I have them turned off. Now I'll turn them back on. And that's center. So now I want to make sure, well, and I lucked out there, that type is in the center. Let me turn these back off. So that's another way to create that kind of thing. Now, if you want to type inside a path and have color behind it, here's how you do that. I'm going to create another circle holding down Shift. Just going to leave it black for the time being. And now here's the trick to this, the trick to having color behind the type. I'm going to copy this circle, Command C, and I'm going to do Edit, Paste, and Place. So now if we click on our layers here, you see I have two circles, the exact same thing. If I move this circle, you can see there's one behind the other. I'm going to do Command Z or Control Z to put it back. All right, now I'm going to lock that bottom layer so nothing happens to it, and I'm going to work on this layer. This time I'm going to choose the area type tool, and I'm just going to click anywhere on the border. It's got to be the border. Look what happens if I click inside. It doesn't work. Got to click on the border, and now I have type in there, which you can't see because it is black type. So let me select it all and change it to white so you can see what's happening here. And there it is. There's that type. So for now, I am going to leave. No, I'm not. I'm going to go grab this type over here because I want to show you how. I'm going to copy this, come back over here. Again, I want to make sure that I'm doing this on layer 3. I'm going to select this type and do Command V to paste that type in there. Again, we can't see it because it's black. And let me switch that to white. There we go. And okay, so it's all in there. You just can't see it all. So here's where the next piece of magic happens. We're going to come to Type and Area Type Options. It opens up this dialog box. Here's what's really critical about this. Don't start changing any of these things, because if you do, like watch what happens when I click on Inset Spacing. Exactly nothing happens. Why? Because we can't see it happening. So make sure you have Preview on. So let me switch that back, that inset. Here's what's happening is I'm changing how far that type is inset inside that shape. So I'll say okay here. I'll leave it at about like that. And we still can't see it all because why? The reason was because I didn't have all of it selected. See, when you see a question mark in here, it's telling you that you have more than one thing going on. In this case, more than one color. So I'm going to select all of it, and now we can see all of it in the circle. So now I'm going to select this again, and I'll make this type larger. I'm also going to make sure that it's center by using the paragraph panel. And I'm going to, oops, Command Z, Control Z. I want to make kind of a headline out of the first part here. So I'm going to select this type. There was once a graphic designer. I'll make that bold, maybe a little larger, and maybe change that color to yellow. Let's see how that's looking there. All right, and now maybe I'll click here and click the Enter key to put that on a different line. And maybe we can make this a little bigger. Now I'm not liking this because you never want to leave one word on a line by itself. That's called a widow. So I'm going to click here and hit the Enter key to knock that down a line. And it's still not centering, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger to about like that. So now we have type on a path with color behind it, but what's making the color behind it is this layer that I locked. So let me change the color of that so you can see what's happening. So you need to create two shapes on the same layer, one right below the other. And so if I turn that layer off, you can't really see anything, but there it all is. Turn it back on, you can see that. So there's the area type, and that's just the plain circle with fill. And those two things go together. I like to group things when they're like that. And now they're both still there, but let me go back. These two are the one that I wanted to group. Command or Control G to group them. Okay, I'll move this off to the side so we can see what's going on here. Now you can do the same thing. I'm going to move over here to the rounded rectangle. You can do the same thing by creating, you can either use the rounded rectangle tool, or let me show you another trick about creating a regular rectangle. Once you've done that, see these little circles inside? If you click and drag, that rounds your corners. The more you drag, the rounder they get. Pretty soon you just have an oval. So I'll put that out about like that. Now again, we need two layers. So I'm going to copy that one, edit, paste in place, and there are our two layers. I'll lock this one down, make sure I'm on this layer, get my type on a path tool, click on the edge of the path. I did the wrong thing. I want the area type tool. And now the type's inside. So then you would do the same thing as we did with the other one. We're going with this circle. We're going to go up to type, area type, make sure preview's on, click on inset, and inset the type however much you want it to be. So now even if I shrink it, the type will stay inside, but we'd have to make it smaller because we made the shape smaller. So I will group these two. I'm going to unlock that one, group them, Command or Control G to group. Oops, didn't catch both of them. You have to have them both selected. Let me make sure they're selected that way. And now they're grouped. All right, let's try this star. So we're going to come over to the star tool, and then I'm just going to click on my artboard so that I can tell it how many points I want on my star. This one has 10 points in it, and I'm going to leave it like that. And that is way too small, so I'm just going to hold down Shift, click and drag to make it bigger. I'll make this I'm going to switch this so I have a black stroke, and I will put yellow inside it. So using the area type tool doesn't work all that well with this. So I'm going to do a workaround. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to type 99 cents. That's pretty small, so I'm going to hold down Shift and make that bigger to make sure I keep it in proportion. It's way too big right now, but that's okay. Double click on it. So now I need cents. And there is no cents on your keyboard. There's a dollar sign, but not a cent sign. So the way you get a cent sign is to go up to Type and Glyphs. And this is something you might want to explore for lots of different reasons. But when you open Glyphs, notice this is every single letter and symbol that is available in Myriad Pro Bold, which is the font we're in. So you could see we could change the font to any one we wanted. I'm going to go back up here, and there's the cent sign. I'm going to double click on it, and it put it in there right there. So now I can close the Glyphs palette. Now I'm going to make this smaller so that it's going to fit inside that star. And I want it to be exactly centered on the star. So I'm going to click on the star, and again, this is where I'm going to use my guides. I'm going to drag a guide over to the center from the top and the side, so I have it vertically and horizontally. The reason you can't see them is because I had them toggled off. I'm going to click on Control semicolon to toggle them back on. Now I can see that. Now I can center this. I'm going to hold down Shift and make it smaller. I can, oops, I moved the guide. So I'm going to right click or Control click on the guides to lock them. The other way to do that is to go to View, Guides, Lock or Unlock or Hide. I'm going to click back on this type, and now I can center that type. I'll turn my guides off so you can see it. That's a little bit too big. I'm going to make it smaller. This time I'm going to hold down Shift and the Alt key so I can make it smaller from the center. That way I don't have to reposition it. There you go. Now again, select both of them and group them. If we come over to our, you can see they're grouped right here. There's the 99 cents and there's our star. So that's how you do Type on a Path and the Area Type tool.